Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome back to Pod Theory. I'm your host, Jason Cercone, and this is episode 127, the second episode in season 2 of Pod Theory, as myself and Travis Brown debunk some of the myths and some of the misconceptions surrounding the podcasting space. Today, we're going to take a look at the fact that many podcasters believe that podcasting is all about monetization. That's simply not true. There is so much value that a podcast can bring you, and the podcasting platform as a whole can bring. It's all about setting realistic expectations and understanding what you want to accomplish by being a part of this medium. So let's dive in head first. This is episode 127, all about debunking the myth that podcasting is only about monetization. Here we go. All right, Travis, it is episode 127 of Pod Theory as we roll through season 2. How you feeling?
I feel great. This is my favorite thing to do ever, which is talking to a mic, talk to my friends, share great stories, and help podcasters overcome obstacles that keep them from being successful.
And I know that's a big part of your world. You do this not only through all of the content you're creating with your podcast and social media, but you've also created a tool that people can use. And I want to give you a quick few minutes to tell us all a little bit more about Poddex. I know we talked about it a lot back in season 1, but for all of our listeners that are just finding us and just learning about who we are here at Pod Theory, talk about Poddex and tell them how it's going to help build their podcast up.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I created a tool for podcasters and content creators to always have a little spark to a great conversation. And pod decks come in the form of decks of cards, or we have a mobile app where we have all kinds of unique interview questions to essentially make great content. And the way they come in handy is you could plan an episode with these cards. You could do something spontaneous in your episode, like make it a game. You could go live on your favorite platform and ask your audience questions. You could ask your spouse some questions to get to know them better. But the point is that if you're asking questions that are off the beaten path that most hosts aren't asking, you're going to stand out and you're going to get the questions may be the same, but the answers are all different. So you have an opportunity, if you're interviewing somebody who's been interviewed a million times, to create something unique and to have fun and to do less research. And we even have an episode ideas deck that has 50 unique episode starting prompts. So if your guest cancels, if you're not feeling inspired, if you're tired of banging your head on the desk, you just shuffle up, pull a card, and you can make an episode every single week with this deck. So there's so much fun, and there's something really neat about spontaneity. There's something about it that really makes things interesting. And so I wanted to put this tool into everybody's hands so they have no excuses, because podcasting, like we said, can be a little difficult sometimes. But if you have this on your desk or on your phone, you're always going to be the life of the party. You're always going to be the best podcast host. And everybody who uses them, they always tell me how much fun they have. And that's something that we forget about in podcasting, is having fun, right? And I think that's the topic of today's discussion.
Yeah, to some degree. And just to let everybody know, if you're loving what Travis is laying down, jump over to poddex.com and you can learn more. You can pick up Poddex for yourself. You can download the mobile app. You can follow at Poddex on Instagram, and you'll see all the great stuff Travis puts out there. To some degree, I think we are going to talk about that. And I think this is a great follow-up to episode 126, where we were talking about the fact that some people believe that podcasting is going to make them rich overnight. The perfect extension to that is the fact that there are a lot of people that believe that monetization is the only thing that podcasting can bring them. And to me, that's another misconception, because you can still create a great podcast and not make a dime from it. On the flip side of that, monetization is not just about getting sponsorship on your show. If you're looking to actually monetize your content, there are alternative ways that you can make that happen. So we want to talk a little bit about that too. This whole thought of podcasting being all about monetization, that's the only thing to accomplish. What else do you feel podcasting is about other than monetization?
Yeah, I think podcasting, as a medium presents a lot of opportunities for us. One, let's say you're doing an interview podcast. You're going to have access to people from all over the globe. You can ask them any question you want. You can see behind the curtain. You can share great stories, and they become a part of your network. And you never know where a networking opportunity will take you. In a year, that person could remember you and your specialty and have started a brand new company where they're looking for a digital marketer. And they go, oh, I was on this podcast with this guy and he was really good at digital marketing. That could turn into a completely new career path for you. That could turn into you being a partner in the company. The networking portion of podcasting, I think, is probably one of the most underrated aspects of what we're doing here. We're communicating with people, we're sharing stories, and in that, people do business with who they like. And so if you give people a chance to like you, you have no idea. Like I've heard so many stories about businesses being started up and they're like, "Oh, I need somebody to fill this role. I remembered this person from 10 years ago." And they bring them into this new business. So, I think networking is probably what I would say is the number one byproduct besides monetization. Like, money's great. Money is the byproduct of great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But for podcasting, I think, we mentioned fun, having fun, and networking are two of the bigger ones. There's also establishing authority. Why don't you speak a little bit about podcasting and how that connects to authority?
Absolutely. I feel that having a podcast out there of your own or making your voice present on other podcasts, as long as you're within this podcasting ecosystem in some way, shape, or form, you are opening up so many different opportunities to establish your authority and showcase your expertise. If you're building your own podcast and you're putting this information out to an audience of ideal listeners, because that's what we should be striving for, right? We should be striving to get people that are into our content and then they recommend us to others that are also going to find value from it. When you do that, you are building your authority and proving that you are a thought leader in your space. So this platform, yes, it's been around for a while, but at the same time, I still look at it as pretty fresh. And I know we mentioned this on one of the past episodes of the season already, the fact that there's only 2.6-ish million, it's in that frame.
Mm-hmm.
Of that chunk of podcasts, there is probably less than a million, less than half a million that are producing constant content consistently. So the opportunities are huge. So even in that small number, what's happening is more people are gravitating to this medium. And as they become podcast listeners, data has shown that that number is ticking upward every year. So you want to be a part of that. And when your voice is present, whether it's on your show or others, and people find it no matter where they're coming from or where they're funneling in from, you've got yourself in a great spot to be that authority figure in your space. And more people are going to catch on to that. There's no doubt about that. So when more companies, more brands, more hobbyists, more whoever start building a podcast, the space will get a little bit more crowded, but you're going to stand out because you're one of the first. And people are going to remember that. And then as long as you're continuously putting new content out there in one way, shape, or form, whether it's through your own show or as a guest on others, you're going to sound great. And you're going to be that authority and that resource that people continuously come back to.
Yeah, I've always had an issue, not an issue, but I've always had like a little bit of worry about using the word authority because it just sounds like you want to be the boss, you want to be up on the stage looking down at people. But what really happens through podcasting is you're showing people that you've got the goods. And I think it's pretty easy these days to hire a VA to write you some blog posts or build you a cool website or, any of the digital assets we can build today as whatever we are, a podcast or a business, whatever. It's really easy to look big. But when it comes down to it, the people that stand out to me are the people that have the goods when they show up on microphones, when they show up on social audio, when they show up on a live video. You can tell right away if somebody knows what they're talking about. I want you to think about authority as not like you're standing in front of a huge audience of people telling them what to do, but more of the authority of like establishing that you've got the goods and that again, people do business with who they like, and you can start a business, build a brand around your podcast through showing people what you got. And so I think there's probably an immediate authority just by having a podcast, because most people want to, but they never do it. And so you become an authority in that way. But you can really show people, whether you're funny, whether you're an entertainer, whether you're an expert, whether you have a specific skill, you could show them that you've got the goods. And that's very important, because there's a lot of people out there that have made it look like the perception is that they've got it together because they've got a slick website. But when it really comes down to it, they don't know what they're talking about. And so you can prove to people that you do that. And I want to transition into kind of the last point, is that you can build a brand around podcasting. When I say that, I don't mean you have to start Google or a company or have a restaurant or something. You can be your own personal brand. And that ties into authority, because if you've got the goods, people are going to want to come to you for the goods. They're going to want to be around you in your circle of influence. They're going to want to be a part of the things that you're taking part in. And so a brand could just be your name. You could just be, my name is my brand. It's personal branding. That's what influencers are doing on social media. That's what, if you think about any personality on anything, Howard Stern, right? You don't really necessarily tie it to Sirius XM or whatever platform he's on. He's Howard Stern, and that's his brand. So I think building a brand around yourself, it really does play into monetization at some point. But these are also things that you can, build a brand or even a community around your topic or niche. And none of that really has to do with money initially. It has to do with the greater cause of what podcasting can bring to you: fun, communication, networking, authority, and brand building, all in one nice, neat little package that is generally easy to create. So you don't have to have a $10,000 video camera or all this equipment. Like, you can do it in the comfort of your own home. It's very powerful stuff, very big opportunity for everybody who can plug in a USB cable.
I think people, and all of us, we have this tendency to put the cart in front of the horse and try to get to this end goal before actually building the road that gets us there smoother, if that makes sense. So we want to reach this end goal no matter what it is that we set for ourselves. And we're just constantly fed shortcuts. Well, this is going to get you there in 30 days. Well, this will get you there in 5 easy episodes, and blah, 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 blah. We're constantly just inundated with all of this crap. But when we start looking at things like all of these ideas of fun and communication, brand building, personal brand building, establishing your authority, all of these are bricks in that road. I see these as, this is going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you front of mind for anybody that sees your content. It's going to help you stay consistent. It's going to motivate you that when you wake up and go, man, I'm not feeling it today, but damn it, my audience is depending on me to give them something. I got to put something good together. These are all going to lead to getting you to that end goal. So if you start looking at it from that standpoint of all of these things that you just covered very well, Travis, if you keep your focus on those, they're going to lead to that end goal. And if that end goal is monetization, then I had said earlier, there are other ways that you can monetize. And we're going to get to this in a very few minutes. So before we do, I do want to cover this because I feel this is one of the big misconceptions within the misconception. Is why do podcasters believe that the only way to generate revenue and to monetize their podcast is to get sponsorship on their show?
It's because most people in the initial phases of any medium are following the leader. And so when they see a big podcaster and the big podcaster has the ad, they associate that as the big opportunity. And when you really break down, let's just call them ads for now. We won't even talk about sponsors. It's a commodity. You are a commodity, because a big company goes to a smaller company, the middleman, and says, I want to get on as many podcasts as possible. And that smaller company goes to you, the podcaster, and says, we can put an ad in your podcast. and they give you pennies on the dollar, and they try to find the lowest bidder to get that ad on as many podcasts as possible to get that exposure. So unless you have millions of downloads, which you don't actually need to make a living, you're not making any real money. You're making less than minimum wage for producing this content and basically letting some corporation ride on your back for pennies on the dollar. And if I came up to you and said, hey, I'll give you a quarter, let me talk on your podcast, you'd be like, no, I'm not taking a quarter. Yet somehow podcasters sign up for these dynamically inserted ads, thinking that if they just get that magic number, that they're going to make money through that medium. And so I don't think it's people necessarily wanting that. They think that that is the only opportunity. They're uninformed, which is why this podcast will be very helpful to them.
I think a lot of it also stems from a very old school mentality where radio, TV, magazines, billboards, you know, insert your favorite old school medium of advertisement here. This is how it was always done. And I think that it was just for whatever reason, this natural progression that in order for me to get to a certain point, I need to have a certain amount of sponsorship to get me there because that's how it's always been done before. That's how radio shows have stayed on the air. Well, guess what? This is a whole new medium.
Yeah.
And advertising in and of itself has completely changed. Companies across the globe have had to adapt to a new way of reaching people. And it's mainly through the internet. I mean, I still see, and it's still, you know, I still scratch my head when I see billboards. And I wonder about the effectiveness of these static paper billboards that people are still investing thousands of dollars into having. And I don't know. I don't have that data in front of me, nor have I been bored enough to go look it up to see exactly what the numbers were. But my point is that I think that when podcasters start their show, they're thinking along the lines of old school radio. And if they came from old school radio, then that was probably drilled into them from day one, that the more people you get listening, the more you can generate of the possibility of bringing on a big sponsor and they're going to give you all this money and so on and so forth. And I think we get this glitz and grandeur mentality built up in our minds that, okay, I got to get there. And the faster I get there, the better this is going to be. I think that takes away from the value you're creating because your focus isn't in the right place. So keep your focus on the value. And again, I go back to the cart before the horse analogy from before. If you keep your focus on the value, you have a bigger sample case that you could present to a potential sponsor down the road if that's the path you want to take. And that's not through the dynamic ads that get inserted that, to me, drag the value of a show down, because I don't need to hear in a 20-minute podcast, which I actually was questioned about this when I interviewed on another podcast, why my 5 to 10 minute show in series 1 of Pod Theory didn't have more ads. Well, that was why. Even for myself, I didn't feel that I needed to just pepper this little short 5 to 10 minute show with a bunch of advertisements. I felt that the value was going to be within the content, and that's something we can all control. So let's keep our focus where it needs to be, build valuable content, and then start presenting that to a potential sponsor that is congruent with your show and your message, because you want your audience to actually pay attention to that sponsorship, because then they may in turn follow their call to action that shows the sponsor that it's working, so on and so forth. But the main point being is that we don't want to get so far removed from the value that we're providing in regards to trying to bring a sponsor in, that the whole point gets lost.
I mean, so podcasting is an extension of radio being dominated by needing finances to stay open, to get talent, to do all those things. So it makes sense why people immediately thought, oh, we could do advertising in podcasts. And also, podcasting is becoming wildly popular from a consumption rate. So, of course, money goes where the attention goes. But what's the worst part of radio?
Ads.
What's the worst part of YouTube?
Ads.
What's the worst part of regular TV? Except the Super Bowl.
Ads. No, I see where you're going. Absolutely.
So why would you want to put the worst part of something into your... Now, I have a very sort of staunch philosophy when it comes to this, because I do think of storytelling as and podcasting as like an art form. It'd be like listening to your favorite song and then all of a sudden there's an ad for Casper mattresses in there. You'd be like, wait, what? What? Why did you do that?
Yeah.
If you do think that that's the only way you can make money, we're going to share with you some ways that you can not have to do that. And, another philosophical question is, if you just want to get rich, what if I come to you with a product or service that you're absolutely 100% against or hate? Would you put it in there just for the money? Because that's the road you get led down. Is if it's just for money, then hey, put an ad for Hitler in your podcast. How about that?
I have to believe that at some point in time that someone has seen an ad or heard an ad on radio that just drove them nuts. But if it appeared on their podcast through dynamic advertising, they were like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah.
Because
I
it's
have
on
this
my
conversation.
podcast.
I have this conversation a lot with people. They send me their podcast. They want me to tell them how to make it better. And in the first 10 seconds, I hear an ad for Anchor. They're doing a live read for Anchor and how everyone needs to use Anchor for their podcast. I have nothing against Anchor, but you're giving away one of the most important parts of your podcast to some company that's going to pay you pennies, literally pennies. Because I always ask, how much are you making from the Anchor ad? Oh, not much. How much? Dollars? No, pennies. Because they're using you to drive their message
Right.
with the guise of exposure, with the guise of, all those things. So I really like to think of my podcast as something that will never have an ad in it. Yes, I have some brand deals that I'm lining up where I'll talk about products, but sticking an ad in something is, just about the worst thing I think you could do to anything.
When you think on that old style mentality of having to generate revenue in that fashion, then you're going to get stuck. But you have to think of yourself as the consumer, as the listener. When you're on that end of it, how often do you like getting interrupted by, even with a 5-second ad that you can skip on YouTube? That shit's still annoying.
Yes. Empathy. You need to have empathy for your audience.
100%. You can't just pepper it in there for the sake of making a quick buck. Because what's going to happen is people are going to say, I can't listen to this, too many ads. That would literally be the review they leave you, if they leave you a review at all before they leave. Can't listen to this, too many ads. I've seen that when I've looked at reviews. That's a terrible place to be. To me, that's the worst review you can get. I'd rather have someone tear this show from top to bottom down about how bad you and I suck at delivering content, because at least with that, I can say, okay, maybe we need
feedback.
to revisit some things here. But if I lost somebody because I had too many ads in there, I'm never getting them back. I can't improve that. They're done. So that, yeah, just think like the consumer when you're considering putting ads in. But to piggyback off of this, there are other ways. As we mentioned before, if you want to monetize your podcast, technically you could monetize your podcast from episode 1. And that's without putting an ad in. That's without getting a sponsorship. And that's through affiliates. So let's talk a little bit about affiliates for a few minutes, Travis. What's been your experience using affiliates?
Yeah, so I just want to jump really quickly back. We both agree that sponsorships or ads is not the best way to make money. And I think it's really good to think about not building your business on the back of somebody else's business, because when they close their doors or decide they don't want to do that anymore, you're going to be back at square one. Mm-hmm. So as we're talking about these other ways, I want you to really realize that we want to have multiple income streams, because if one of those income streams goes away, you're not cut off at the knees. You have multiple things bringing you in money that add up to your creator's salary, right? So the first way is what you just mentioned, affiliate marketing. I think affiliate marketing falls into the same category for me as authority does, where it seems like a gross word. It's like, I'm an affiliate marketer. And it's like, ooh, are you going to try to sell me like furniture, or where's the gotcha, right? So think of affiliate marketing as word of mouth marketing. Somebody asks you for a referral for a book, a movie, a product that you use. They're asking you for advice. Affiliate marketing is simply having your way of sharing that when, if they purchase it, you're going to get a commission. You're going to get paid for your word of mouth recommendation. And if you're like me, people ask me for stuff all day long. I'm sure people ask you, Jason, for lots of recommendations for things as little as maybe, you know, a book, as big as maybe, what kind of car do you drive, right? We're always looking for word of mouth recommendations. That it carries a heavier weight than an advertisement does. If your friend tells you to listen to a podcast, you're more likely to do it than if you hear an ad to listen to that podcast. So affiliate marketing can be done in two simple ways. First, you can use the biggest company in the world, which is Amazon, and they have an Amazon affiliate program where you can make a link of any product that is sold on Amazon and share it. And when that link is clicked, it starts a 24-hour window, and anything that's purchased within that window, you get paid a commission on. If they purchase the thing that you gave them a link for, you get paid a higher percentage, but you get a percentage of the product based on the category. And so instead of someone saying, hey, what microphone do you use? And you just send them to Amazon, you just send them your link. Nothing changes for the website. Nothing changes in the price. The experience for them is exactly the same. And you just say, hey, this is my affiliate link. If you purchase through this, nothing changes for you, but it helps me keep creating. And if you can incorporate affiliate or word of mouth marketing into your content strategy, you can leave these little seeds everywhere that when people get excited about that product, they may purchase it and you're going to make money over time. The second way is to partner with a company like Poddex or any other brand that has an affiliate program where they want to reward you for spreading the love. So you can sign up and you can get some type of coupon code or a link, and you give that out and you get paid when those people purchase. And so instead of having an ad in your podcast for something you have no control over, why not promote things that you actually love and use? Because we know when somebody says, hey, I just really love this coffee mug, it's the best coffee mug I ever had, you're going to pay attention. But if you get, an ad pops in and says, this coffee mug is the best coffee, you're just like immediately being sold.
Right.
And so you can really strategically do this. I'm not saying you need to drop an affiliate link in every episode, but when it's proper, when you're mentioning, or here's a better example, you're interviewing an author. Why send the people just to Amazon to buy their book? Why not have your own link for that book? So every book that you sell, you get paid a commission on. And that is affiliate marketing in a nutshell.
I think it's a great way to attack monetization because, as you said, Travis, the goal is to have multiple streams of income. And if you're tied to one sponsor and that sponsor decides, you know what, we're going to pivot, we're no longer going to advertise, or we're not even going to operate under this name, we're going to retool everything, you're stuck holding the bag. And now you've got to go back to square one and find somebody else. And if that was your only stream of revenue, you said it perfectly, you're cut off at the knees. So finding all of these different affiliates out there that, again, I personally recommend keeping them tied to your message, tied to the theme of your show, because you're better off trying to appeal to an entire crop of your ideal listeners with something that they would be into versus trying to sell them on something that they would really have no use for. They're coming to your show for a specific reason. So anything that's tied to your show from a sponsorship or affiliate, no matter what the course of action is, should apply to them as well. So keep that
Think
in
about
mind.
relevancy, right?
Yes,
Is this
relevancy is a big
relevant to
word.
my audience? Because if you're starting to feed them things that are not relevant to them, you as an authority become irrelevant. And, if you ever meet somebody who you think's rich, ask them what they do. I guarantee you their wealth was not built on one thing. They will probably have investments, real estate, a business, other things that they're into. They've created multiple streams of income to create that wealth. So it's a really good mindset to have as a creator is, can I build 5 income streams? Can I build 10? And they don't all have to be smash $1 million streams, but you can stack them up. And when you start stacking things up, that's when you get that big lump sum that you're looking for that we referenced in episode 126 of, you want to get rich? I understand. If you want to get rich, you need to have multiple streams of income.
Absolutely. I think the relevancy ideal is perfect for everything that you're putting out there content wise. inside and outside of your podcast. If it's not relevant to your audience, they're not going to be your audience anymore because they're going to start to get confused as to why they're paying attention. So keep that relevancy thing front of mind. Another great way to monetize without getting ads or sponsors is through the use of physical products or courses. Now, Travis is a great example, and we kicked off this show. He has Pod Decks, which is a physical product that you can hold in your hand. You've also done courses in the past too. And I know that if you go back and listen to 125, you'll hear Poddex was born because it was an attachment to a course that you created.
That's
So
correct.
you've been on this train for a while. And to me, I think that we're always looking for ways to better ourselves in whatever aspect of business or life that we find ourselves in at that point. And there are courses everywhere. Obviously, we know that this is something that can generate revenue, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this, Travis, and then we'll wrap up. I feel like now that the courses are becoming so plentiful, we need to find ways that we can make our courses stand out and even our physical products, but we'll stick on the course theme for the sake of this conversation.
Sure.
Where do you see courses going, and where do you feel people can stand out as they create courses for their audience to consume?
Yeah. So the digital education market as it stands today, I believe is around a $26 billion industry. It is estimated to be around 350 billion in 15 years because people are spending less time in college. With the access to the internet, we can learn things. And so you probably have something that people ask you about all the time, whether it's attached to your podcast or not. I think let's put a myth in here that the money that you make has to somehow come through your podcast. Again, we're building a personal brand. So if you know how to do something awesome and you can build a course around it, you can sell that course. And a lot of times creators end up making courses on how they do what they do. They're not selling what they do. They're showing other people how to do what they do. So I want you to start to think about when people like, what's the thing that most people ask you for help with? And that could potentially be a course. Now, there's nothing worse than spending $300, $400, $500 on a course. You're excited about it. You open it up and it's like 100 hours worth of video because now you just bought a job. You've got to watch all these videos. So I personally think that the low-hanging fruit in the future of courses and digital products is actually micro courses where you take somebody through one concept from step 1 to step 10 or whatever the last step is, and you teach them how to do one thing. Because as busy as people are, it's a time game. If you can give them something affordable to teach them how to do one thing and get them from A to Z in that, you'll sell a ton of courses because people don't want to sit through 100 hours of video. People don't need flashy graphics. So in order to make a micro course, you need to think, how can I take someone from step A to Z on any one thing? And you want to think about not getting fancy. You can do this recording the video from your laptop, your phone. You don't even have to be on video. You can make a PowerPoint presentation and screen record you talking through this presentation. But the point of the matter is I think that when people think about making a course, they think they have to put like all this stuff into it, flashy ads, flashy, all this crazy stuff. People want to learn one thing and they want to learn it quickly. So if you go to YouTube and you click on how to unclog my toilet, there's a 9-minute video, a 7-minute video, and a 3-minute video. Which one do you click on?
Personally, I would click on the 3-minute video, but I would also go check out the 9-minute video.
Okay.
I'll start with the short one and see, but I also want to see what the other guy has to say. And that's just me. I know that I'm probably in the minority in saying that.
But your initial reaction is, help me unclog this toilet as fast as I can.
Yeah, especially depending on the situation that I may find myself in.
So you want to think about if you're just getting your foot into the waters, and this is my personal experience. So I built a course called Shortcut to Podcasting that was, 50 hours of videos and all this extra stuff, and I sold some, but most people didn't want that. They wanted a shortcut. They wanted to get there quickly, right? Because time is of the essence. So if you can walk somebody through that, it doesn't have to be crazy. There's a million different platforms that allow you to sell something for free. So Member Vault is a site where you can sell up to 100 courses before you have to upgrade to a premium plan. And listen, if you sell 100 copies of your course, you're going to have the money to upgrade. You've proven the concept. If you sell 10, I think you've proven the concept. So think about micro courses as an extension of yourself. Doesn't have to be directly to your podcast. Let's say you podcast specifically about comedy, right? Well, do you know how to make really great graphics for your videos? People might want to know that. I can use a perfect example. Someone in my mastermind group, he's a comedian and he responds to every text, every DM with a GIF or a GIF of himself. And the most common question he got asked was, how do you do this? How do you have all these GIFs of yourself? To which I responded to him, make a course on how to do this. And he did. And he sold thousands of dollars worth of courses that had nothing to do with comedy, nothing to do with his podcast. That's the mentality you have to be in when you're thinking about solving people's problems. And so think of it as a candy bar. You go through the aisle, you go through the grocery store, and you're like, oh, Snickers bar. You don't look at the price. You're not like, is this candy bar $1 or is it 79 cents? You just grab it and you put it on the cart. Make your pricing a grab it and go price. $19, $29, $37, $49, whatever your price that you want to charge for it, but make it a no-brainer to be able to put in your credit card and learn this one thing that you want to learn quickly. Does that give you a good idea of where my head's at with courses? I'd be curious to see what you think, Jason.
No, please elaborate. I'm kidding. That was perfect. and honestly, I think that, I mean, this whole idea of micro courses was something that I had in mind. And then when you and I started talking more and you were sharing how this was the approach that you were taking, it solidified it for me that this is the best way to go. Because when we think about it from a podcasting perspective, the big thing that when I'm talking to my clients or anybody that I'm talking to in regards to starting a podcast or improving an existing podcast, I always ask about how niche are they? Are they focused in on a certain topic, or are they all over the map? Are they trying to serve everyone with, one week we're talking about sports, and then the next week we're talking about politics, and then this week we're going to talk about sports again, but next week we're going to talk about marketing? That's a hard podcast to build an audience for because you're not getting that crossover appeal. And you might have a listener that's going to tune in for your sports, but then says, well, I don't care about politics. I don't care about marketing. I'm not coming back until they talk about sports again. So you're dividing your audience by definition. It works the same way in regards to these courses too, because if you've got something it may be something that's niche and talking about one subject, but at the same time, if you got 50 videos, chances are you're off on some other tangents here and there. And the point I'm driving at is it's not getting people to that destination, which is a solution to their problem. So when we are talking about a half hour to 45-minute podcast episode, are we getting people to that solution they're looking for? When they get into a course, because they only have so much time in their day, how quickly are we getting them to that solution? To me, micro courses are the answer to that question. You can pack so much value into an hour-long course, no matter what platform you put it on, that at the end of the day, the next time you put out an hour course, somebody's going to say, well, that helped me the last time. I'm coming back for that. I'm going to grab this one too, because now I'm experiencing this problem, or I'm still having some residual problems that maybe this video can help me with. The possibilities are endless, but not just from the standpoint of how you're delivering the content, but how you're creating it. You're saving your own energy by keeping things short and sweet and to the point, instead of trying to put together this Harvard level class that at the end of the day, you've poured hours of your time into, and you don't even know if anybody's going to buy it.
Yep.
And you have to put this massive price tag on it to justify all the time you spent. Now someone's looking at it going, it's a little bit out of my price range, but here's something over here for $20. You're going to kick yourself for all that time you wasted. And it's going to turn you off to potentially going down that road again. And if you're smart, maybe you take that 500 hours of content and cut it up into a bunch of little chunks and sell it individually. That might be something you could do to salvage that material. But the point being that I'm on board with you, man. I like the micro course idea. I'm actually working on a couple of my own right now. that hopefully by the end of 2021 will be available to everybody. But I'm on board with you. Like I said, I think that's the way to go. And I think if we did not serve the audience some additional ways to generate revenue outside of ads and sponsorship, what do we just do, man? Because I think this was pretty jam packed with some value.
I do too. And I want to close it out with this thought.
Please do.
The philosophy of micro courses is that if you buy a course for $500, it's all the information, but you never finish it and you never make the transformation. You'll never buy a course from that person again. But if you buy a $50 course and it gets you the transformation, it takes you through what you needed to know and you got to the end, you're more like that person's more likely to buy another course from you. So think about, do we just want the money once from somebody, or can we sell the same customers over and over again? Because again, with that authority, with the people do business with who they like, they're more likely to purchase again from you. You want to create a list of raving fans that want to buy all of your products because you are giving them the answers they need in the time that they need. So I think that micro courses also play into, you don't have to keep on going to get thousands of new customers. Why not just sell the same group of people again?
I love it. That's a great way to end. If you're looking to monetize your podcast, keep your mind outside of just ads and sponsorship. If those things come your way, that's fantastic. Make sure you're utilizing them the proper way. Make sure you're not ruining your listener experience by putting too many ads and too many sponsors into your podcast episodes. But ultimately, think outside the box. Start thinking of some ways that you can generate some additional revenue. So this has been episode 127. Travis, thanks, man. This is good. Episode 128, we're going to talk about, I don't have enough time to podcast.
Time.
Good one to tackle, right? All
Sounds
right,
great.
See you guys over on episode 128. And with that, episode 127 of Pod Theory has come to a conclusion. I hope you've enjoyed your time with us today. I know I have. Episode 128 awaits you, as all of season 2 is right here on display for you to consume all at once in one big bingeable chunk. And on episode 128, Travis and I are going to be debunking the myth that you don't have enough time in your day to do a podcast. So that's it for episode 127. I am your host, Jason Cercone. Please jump ahead, listen to episode 128. I will see you there. Good talk. End of podcast. Are you looking to keep the stimulating conversation flowing on your podcast? Of course. And it's easy to do so when you use pod decks. These decks are loaded with episode ideas, conversation starters, icebreakers, and a whole lot more. You can grab each deck individually, purchase them in bundles, or download the Pod Decks app that features every deck, plus podcast mini courses, leads on royalty-free music, connection to the Pod Decks community, all designed to keep your content engaging and make you a better podcaster. Visit poddex.com to learn more today and follow @poddex on Instagram.